Are you currently trying to track your macros or even trying to understand what macros are and how many calories you should be intaking on a daily basis to meet your goals? If this sounds like you, this video is for you. Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going over macronutrients, what they are, and I'm going to give you guys tips and suggestions on how to find your ratio that can help you meet your goals. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alrighty friends, so we are going to start off with what macronutrients are and the purpose of macronutrients. So what are they? They are nutrients that your body needs in large amounts. And there are three types of macronutrients. There is fat, carbs, and protein. And all three of these give you energy. So this is the fuel for your body so that you can go about your day feeling good. All right? So we're going to go over all three types of macronutrients, their purpose, and then we're going to go over how to find your ratio that is going to optimize your results, whether that be for weight loss, for muscle gain, whatever it is. All right, so our first macronutrient that we are going over is fat. Now, fat is 9 calories per 1 gram, okay? 9 calories per 1 gram. And I will go over what that means in just a moment. And there are three types of fats. So our first type is going to be our saturated fats. And then we have our unsaturated. And lastly, we have trans fats. Now, with fat, in all three of these, they're either solid or liquid at room temperature or in the refrigerator. So our saturated fats are going to be solid. Our unsaturated are going to be liquid. And trans fats will be solid at room temperature. Now, all of those things will make more sense in just a moment. So, with our saturated fats. Now, saturated fats have gotten kind of a bad rep recently in years and past years. But saturated fats are solid at room temperature. And there's a lot of debate in the medical community that they contribute to a lot of like disease and stuff. But there are good saturated fats and we do need them. And so some are better for you than others. Now, the saturated fats can be found in red meat, which is like beef, lamb, pork. We can also find them on the skin on chicken and other types of poultry. And then we also have our whole milk dairy products like cheese, milk, ice cream, which is one of those ones that isn't so good. And then we have butter, eggs, palm and coconut oils. All right. And then we have our unsaturated fats. So unsaturated fats are liquid at room temperature. And you can find these in things like avocado, olive oil, canola oil, peanut oil, nuts, all sorts of different types of seeds, nuts. And they turn solid when you put them in the refrigerator. So liquid at room temperature, solid when refrigerated. Okay, so when we're looking at our unsaturated fats, we have two different types. We have monosaturated and polysaturated. The difference between those is monosaturated has one carbon atom and poly has multiple. Okay, so mono and poly, right? And polyunsaturated fats, you're going to find those in like walnuts, flax seeds, salmon, tuna, other types of fattier fish, all right? And then our trans fats. Now, trans fats are the bad fats, okay? So these might taste good, but they are not good for you. Trans fats are the fats that are many times processed by companies, and they process these to make them last longer on the shelf and taste better. Okay, so these guys here are our bad fats, okay? Most of the time, they are processed. Now, you can find trans fats in many shelf products nowadays, so it's always really good to look on the nutrition label, ingredients, to make sure what types of fats we are consuming. Okay, so your saturated fats, there's going to be good saturated and bad saturated. Our unsaturated, same deal. Trans fats, for the most part, are going to be bad. Okay, so we always want to watch out for those. So that is your quick rundown on fats. And always important to remember that they are 9 calories per 1 gram. And what that means is with our carbs and protein, they're only 4 calories per 1 gram. So it's really easy for us to intake and eat fat calories, and for that to raise high than carbs and protein. Okay, and we'll discuss that a little bit more when we go into ratios. Now, before I move on to our next category, which is carbs, I want to quickly go over some of the bad fats that we want to avoid. So things that you should look for on that nutrition label when you are grocery shopping. And unfortunately, in the US, a lot of shelf products are made with these bad oils because they are cheaper. All right, so they're cheaper for production, and so a lot of companies use them. So first we have canola oil, okay? Canola oil, palm oil, soybean oil, vegetable oil, peanut oil, and cottonseed oil. There are a couple more, but these are our main oils that we want to try to avoid. And it's pretty wild because they are added to many things that you may not realize. So if you are looking at the ice cream aisle and you go to the nutrition label, you will notice that a lot of the times there is some palm oil that is added to it, right? And again, they do this so that they have longer shelf life. It also is preserved. And if you were to look at even a nut butter, like an almond butter, for instance, even though nuts already have natural oil, they do add more oil to it, okay? And then dressings. Lots and lots of dressings have canola oil or soybean oil added to them. So it's really important that we choose products and brands that use things like avocado oil or coconut oil or olive oil, good types of oils that have a lot of good omega fatty acids. So please make sure that you are always checking your nutrition labels, and also when you go out to restaurants. Many times, again, because it's super cheap, restaurants will use canola oil. So more higher up restaurants, more high class, more expensive restaurants tend to use things like butter, which is better than canola oil. Okay, so make sure you always check your labels. All right, let's move on to carbs. All right, guys, so moving on to carbohydrates. So carbs are 4 calories per 1 gram. So fats are 9 and carbs are 4. Okay, so when I say it's 4 calories per 1 gram or 9 calories per 1 gram, what I mean by that is that if you were to have 150 grams of, let's say, sweet potato, it's going to be 4 calories per 1 gram. So that would be 150 times 4. And then you would get your calories. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about how many calories per 1 gram. Okay? So with our carbs, they break down into glucose. And glucose is sugar. So carbs are directly related to sugar. We have glucose, we have fructose, which is in fruits. And so we have 2 types of carbs. We have simple and we have complex, okay? So our simple carbs are going to be our direct sugar, okay? They'll be found in fruits, vegetables, milk products, and then these can also be presented as processed sugars. So there's a lot of different processed sugars out there, which we'll go over. And then we have our complex, which are more starchy carbs, okay? So things like rice and grains, all right? And carbs have easily been vilified over the past, especially with these new trendy diets like the ketogenic diet or the Whole30 diet, and they've been kind of seen as the bad guy. But carbohydrates, we do need them, and they are our quick source of energy. So if you're going into a workout and you need that quick source, you're burning your carbs first. So like an apple, that would be some quick carbs to have before a workout to give you that boost of energy, right? Because it's immediately going to break down into that sugar. So our complex are, like I said, those starches. And they're also going to be the fiber that we intake. So your fiber is a complex carb that can be found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and dry goods. And we need fiber in our diet. It helps solidify, get things going, helps with our digestive system. And then starches are also going to be found in vegetables, cooked beans, peas, grains. And like I said, carbs have been vilified, but not all carbs are bad. We do need them in our diet, right? And so there was a study done, and according to the Mayo Clinic, in the study, they were comparing how fiber and whole grains and carb-rich foods affect your heart and your blood vessels, and they found that it can actually lower your chance of heart and blood vessel disease. So like I said, not all bad. Don't be scared of the carbs. Carbs are our friends, right? It's just a matter of how we use them, the types of carbs we eat, and the macro ratio, right? So it all just depends on what you need for your body type, your goals, how much activity you're utilizing during the day, okay? And so we want to be making sure that we are using only whole source, like good quality carbs, because there are a lot of really processed foods out there on the shelf and processed sugars. So all those things that we see that say like sugar-free, they seem great, right? Sugar-free sounds super awesome, but they also have sugar alcohols, which are not great for you either. So things like sucralose, aspartame, sorbitol, maltitol, all those things that they add to make it sugar-free, but they're also still spiking your insulin. And your insulin is spiked when you have carbs. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we do want to make sure that we have good insulin resistance. And that is a whole other topic that I will go over in another video. But for today, we're just discussing what carbs are, how many calories per gram, and types of carbs. Okay? So bottom line is we want to stick to good quality grains and getting our fruits, the sugar from fruits and natural sugars rather than cane sugar or these fake sugars like the sucralose and aspartame. So always eating good quality vegetables, fruits, grains, sprouted grains, and keeping it simple, right? All right, let's go ahead and get into protein. All right, guys, so before I go into protein, I do kind of want to lay out the sugars and fake sugars that we want to avoid so you can take a note on that. So you'll see here we have cane sugar, all right, aspartame, and sucralose. So those are like the top 3 that we really, really want to try to avoid and limit in our diet. So you'll find cane sugar in a lot of sweets, right? So try to find things that are sweetened with natural sugars like pure honey, pure maple syrup, dates, date syrup, or coconut palm sugar, and other natural sweeteners like monk fruit or stevia, which are also 0-calorie sweeteners. So looking for brands that incorporate those rather than these 3 is really going to help not only your overall health, also your digestive system, okay? So always check those nutrition labels. All right, so now going into our third macronutrient, protein. So protein is 4 calories per 1 gram, just like carbs. So you got fats, which is 9, carbs, which is 4, and protein, which is 4. So protein helps with a lot of different things. Now it helps with tissue structure, hormones, your metabolic system, transport system, balancing your acid-base environment, and of course helps build muscle. So protein is extremely important and we need it to survive. We need it to optimize our overall organ function and body. Okay, so with protein, there's a couple different ways to work in your ratio. Like, of course, it has all of its different benefits, so we want to make sure we have a good amount of protein. Now, my recommendation for protein is to do about 1 gram per pound of body weight. But a good range is to do 0.85 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. So what I mean by that is, if we were to take a 130 pound person, right? And we want to do 1 gram per pound of body weight, you would just do 130 times 1, and obviously that is 130 grams of protein per day. Okay, so that might seem high to someone, but you can always lower it a little bit and slowly increase your protein. So you can start off by doing 130 times 0.85 to get whatever you need for your daily protein intake. So that would be my recommendation. This will help us to build muscle if we are looking to build lean muscle mass. This will help us with all of these different things. And you can incorporate protein through lean meats, red meat, poultry, fish. You can also get it through dairy products and eggs, egg whites, cheeses, all sorts of things. And if you're going the vegetarian or vegan route, then you can also find it in beans and lentils, in tempeh, things of that sort. So there's so many different options for protein. Of course, you can always supplement protein by using supplement powders. And of course, as I will always say, supplements are supplements for a reason. We supplement them to our diet when we can't get it incorporated into our food. So always try to get your protein from a food source. But it is handy to have a protein powder on the fly, especially if you don't have time to cook up a bunch of chicken, right? So I will also give you my recommendation for the supplement company I work with, Cutler Nutrition, down below, and give you guys a little link and a little discount for them too. Really, really good flavors, just saying. So now let's go ahead, and now since we've covered all the 3 macronutrients, fats, carbs, and protein, I'm going to give you a couple tips on how to find a good ratio for your macro daily intake. Alright guys, so now it's time to go into macro ratios and how to find a ratio that's going to work for your body type and for your goals, whether that be weight loss or gain lean muscle mass or just overall health and feeling good. So when we're talking about ratios, we always also want to remember that calories in to calories out expended energy wise will determine whether you are going to lose weight or whether you're going to gain weight. So the amount of food we eat, are we burning the same amount of calories, or are we burning more calories or less calories, right? So always keeping that in mind, okay? So where to begin with finding a good macro ratio? Step one, I would recommend to track your current daily food intake. So what foods, how much of the food are you eating in a day? What is your breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, desserts, drinks that you're consuming? Track all of it. And you can do this by using a food app. There's a lot of different food apps out there. The most common one is going to be MyFitnessPal. My personal favorite, and what I have all my clients use, is called Carb Manager. I think it's a little bit more user-friendly, and I know the ins and outs of it really well, so I can help my clients with it. But track your food for a whole day. And if you don't know exact portions, just kind of guesstimate by like, oh, it's about a cup of rice, or it's about 2 tablespoons of cut avocado. And see where your macros land. See how many carbs you're intaking, how many fats, and how much protein. And this will kind of give you a good understanding of where you're currently at, because you may find like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was eating that much fat, or that much fat was in steak or whatever. And so you're going to get a lot of learnings from it, which is awesome. Then, once you are able to see where you're currently at, you can assess it. You can see, is my diet currently high fat, low carb? Is it low fat, high carb? Or is it high fat and high carb? Which unfortunately is majority of the population in the US right now because of processed foods and because of fast food restaurants. We tend to have both high fat and high carb. And like I was saying earlier, with fats being 9 calories per 1 gram, it's super, super easy to go way over on fats, when really we should be watching that intake. And there's fat in a lot of different things. There's fat in red meat, in fatty fish like salmon. There's fat in a lot of dressings and sauces. And how much oil are you using when you cook on a pan? Are you using pour oil and measuring it, or are you using spray oil? So there's a lot of different things to take into consideration. So those are the first 2 steps. So now I'm going to give you a couple tips and suggestions as to finding a good ratio and the different types of ratios, and a way you can go about it to optimize your results in the gym, on your fitness journey, and just overall health. Alrighty guys, so now going into our macro ratios and a couple suggestions and tips to kind of help you find your way. So first I want to go into body types. So everyone has a different body type, and that can also determine our macro ratio, as well as our metabolism and insulin resistance. So if you are currently dieting right now and you find yourself in kind of a plateau where you're stagnant, or like the scale just isn't budging, you've probably hit that plateau where your metabolism needs to be spiked, or your insulin sensitivity is a little low. So people who have an ectomorph body type, meaning that they are naturally a little bit leaner, more slender, probably have a little bit more easy time with consuming carbs. Their insulin sensitivity is a little bit more optimal. And this varies, of course. So we always want to take in consideration our body type and how we do with carbs versus fats and protein. So the first scenario I'm going to go over is assessing from what you tracked in your app and seeing where you are. If your diet currently is low fat, high carb, and moderate protein, so like I was saying, about 1 gram or 1 gram per pound of body weight, then we want to just start off by keeping the fat and protein the same. because you're already at a low fat, your moderate protein is perfect. And if we're going for weight loss, we just want to decrease our carbs a little bit. And then if you're going for weight gain or muscle gain, then you're going to increase your carbs a little bit. And if you are in that plateau and it's not a matter of you not doing well with like a high carb diet, you may want to give yourself a refeed day. And what I mean by refeed day is just increase your carbs a little bit higher for 1 to 2 days and then go back down to a lower carb diet. Okay, so fats are going to stay the same, protein's going to stay the same. For 1 to 2 days, just go a little bit higher in your carbs and then bring it back down a little bit from where you were to start. Okay? So going into the next one, we have high fat, very low carb. So almost like keto or just super low carb and moderate protein. So my suggestion, if you're hitting a plateau or you're just not really sure where to go, keto is a great way to just initiate your weight loss, and it's also great for autoimmune diseases and hormone balance. There's a lot of really good benefits, but it's not a sustainable diet long term. So it's not really a lifestyle diet. And so there's a couple different reasons for that, but one being that it's really hard to stick to keto for a long period of time, and especially if you're in a sport or athletic program where you're doing a lot of high intensity, you're burning a lot of energy, you really do need some of those carbs. And so with this take, we want to eventually go into a carb cycle and introduce carbs back into the diet. So the way we do that is carb cycling. And I will do a whole video on carb cycling because there's a lot that goes into it. But just a quick brief. An example of doing a carb cycle is majority of your days you're going to stay with that low carb, high fat diet, but you're going to incorporate maybe 2, maybe 3 days of a little bit higher carbs and then bring it back to your low carb days. So this again is just helping spike that metabolism again and then bring it back down to a low carb diet. So an example for this would be doing Sunday through Thursday, your low carb, high fat, moderate protein diet, okay? And keeping those carbs low, about, I would say anywhere from 20 to 30 net carbs, okay? So net carbs, not total carbs. And then Friday and Saturday, increasing your carbs a bit, not super, super high, but increasing your carbs and lowering your fat, so it's moderate fat, moderate carb, just for 2 days, so Friday and Saturday. And then you go right back to your low carb diet the following days. So you continue to do that in a cycle, so carb cycling. And one of the great things that this allows you to do is, one, it will help increase your insulin sensitivity and reintroduce carbs in a good way rather than going straight from a super low carb diet to a normal high carb diet, because that can really actually bring your weight up, and if you're going for weight loss, we don't really want that, right? And it can do a lot of things with your metabolism. So another good benefit is it allows you to actually enjoy social events or social gatherings, go to barbecues, have fun times with friends, and not have to worry like, oh, are they going to have a low carb, high fat option on the menu? Like, am I going to have to eat before I go out? Like, how am I going to stick to my diet when I'm invited to go out, right? Or maybe you want to go out for drinks, and drinks, alcohol has carbs. So this allows you to have a little bit more flexibility in your lifestyle. So that is going to be your high fat, low carb, moderate protein ratio. All right, so let's go into our third option. Okay, so our third option is going to be, if your current diet, you find that it's high fat, high carb, and very low protein, which a lot of people find that is the case nowadays with just the food that's available to us out there, then what we're going to want to first do is increase the protein. Okay, so we are going to increase it to 0.85 to 1 gram per pound of your body weight. And so an example of that would be 130-pound person times 0.85 is 110 grams of protein per day. Okay, so first you're going to want to increase that protein. Then we're going to want to lower our fats. Okay, so we're going to lower our fats, and my suggestion is doing 0.3 to 0.35 grams per pound of body weight. So an example would be a 130-pound person times 0.3 would be 39 grams of fat per day. Okay, so we're gonna just try out a low fat, high protein, and moderate carb diet. Okay, so just play around with those carbs and see where you're at currently, and just bring it down a little bit, but not too much. First, we're going to lower those fats, and you can adjust from there. Okay, so that's going to be the third macro suggestion that I give. And again, with all of these suggestions, they are suggestions. I don't know where your current diet is. I don't know your body type, if you have certain gut issues, your genetics. And so these are just suggestions that you guys can utilize and play around with, and just some general information on macronutrients. So if you guys do want to learn more or get really in depth with this, you can always visit my website. I offer a bunch of different coaching programs for nutrition, and we work together to find the exact ratio that works for your body type, your weight, your height, your age, your goals, and any sort of metabolism or insulin sensitivity, as well as any kind of gut disruption. And so if you are interested in working with me as your nutrition coach, I do offer accountability programs, which you can find on my website, MadelaineRoseFitness.com. And I would love to help you find the exact ratio that is going to get you to your goals, whether that be weight loss or lean muscle mass or just overall health in general. So I hope that this little macro crash course was helpful for you guys today. Just understanding macros a little bit better, understanding ratios and how effective they can be, and how they can really help you get to whatever goal you are looking for. So please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, share the video. I will be coming out with more videos that are educational like this, so that you guys can learn and really optimize your fitness goals, as well as just feeling good overall and really helping your organs and all the good stuff. So don't forget to, again, subscribe, like the video, share it. And then if you are interested in any of my nutrition coaching services, I do offer a couple different types of programs on my website, MadelaineRoseFitness.com. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram for all sorts of healthy tips and tricks, different recipes, all sorts of good things like that. It is @_MadelaineRose_fit. So that's me on Instagram, and thank you so much for watching.